Hey kids, glad that you could join us this morning. I hope you're ready for a fun time. We're going to sing some worship songs together, then I'm going to read a story out of the Gospel Story Bible, and then I'll talk about that lesson a little bit. And then we'll join the adults.
I want to be like Jesus. Joy, peace, and patience too. Grow in those who trust in you. All who put their hope in Christ. Kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control, and gentleness. Live in those who have new life. I want to be like Jesus, to walk and talk like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him. I want to love like Jesus, to give my all like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him. I don't always do what's right. Jesus lived a perfect life, and for sins like mine, He died. Teach me to obey Your word. Help me to put others first. Holy Spirit, change my life. I want to be like Jesus, to walk and talk like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him. I want to love like Jesus, to give my all like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him. Follow Him. I want to follow Jesus. I want to be like Jesus, to walk and talk like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him. I want to love like Jesus, to give my all like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him. I want to be like Jesus, to walk and talk like Jesus. I want to live like one who follows Him.
Story 103. Jesus cleanses 10 lepers. It's from Luke chapter 17. As Jesus traveled about, He performed signs and wonders and healed the sick. When people heard that Jesus was coming, they gathered on the road ahead and waited for Him to arrive. One day, on His way to Jerusalem, somewhere between Samaria and Galilee, 10 lepers waited outside of a village hoping to see Jesus pass by. Leprosy was a terrible, incurable disease back then. Once a person got leprosy, he was required to leave his home and family and live outside the city, away from all the other people. The Jewish law said a leper had to call out, "Unclean! Unclean!" to warn the people to stay away. When the lepers saw Jesus outside the village, they stayed at a distance, but instead of calling out, "Unclean! Unclean!" they called out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When Jesus saw the lepers and heard their request, He said, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." That was what the law told a leper to do if he was healed. If the priest agreed that the leprosy was gone, the person could go back to his home and family. When the lepers heard Jesus' command, they hoped He had healed them, and they hurried to obey. As they went on their way to the priest, all 10 were healed. How happy they must have been, But do you know what happened next? Only one of them returned to thank Jesus for what he had done. That man praised God loudly at the top of his lungs. When he reached Jesus, he fell at his feet and thanked him over and over. The leper who returned was a Samaritan, a group of people the Jews didn't like. Jews and Samaritans didn't usually like to be together. Jesus looked down at the thankful man and said, "Didn't I heal 10 lepers? Where are the other 9? Didn't anyone come back to thank God except for this foreigner?" Then Jesus said to the thankful man, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." Were you surprised that the lepers who were Jewish did not stop to thank Jesus? But the Samaritan leper did. In the end, many Jews rejected Jesus as the Messiah. In this story, the Samaritan who knelt at Jesus' feet got more than his leprosy healed that day. God touched his heart as well. The other 9 found healing for their leprosy, but this man found Jesus and forgiveness for his sin. Jesus praised him for his faith. You and I might not have leprosy, but our hearts are sick with sin just like this man. When Jesus died on the cross, he made a way for all of us to have our sins removed. That is something worth thanking God for.
Imagine that you go to a restaurant and you sit down and you're getting ready to look at the menu. When you look down at your glass and you realize your glass is left over from the last meal, what would you do? You'd take your glass, you'd hold it up to the server and you'd say, "Unclean, unclean," because you can't drink out of a glass like this. Well, that's a little bit like the disease of leprosy. Leprosy was an infectious disease that you could give other people that gave you terrible sores, even caused your fingers or your toes to fall off. So nobody wanted to get it. And lepers were cast aside from the rest of the people, kind of like quarantine. And whenever they went anywhere, they had to say, "Unclean, unclean." Now, I'd like to tell you a story about 10 lepers. One day, Jesus was on his way traveling to Jerusalem, and he met a group of 10 lepers on the side of the road. But they didn't yell, "Unclean, unclean." They called out to him, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on us." Jesus had compassion on the 10 lepers, and he told them to go show themselves to the priest. So they began to travel away, because if they were to be healed, the priest would be the one to say they were clean. And on their journey, one by one, all 10 were healed. One of the lepers on his journey, when he saw that he was healed, went back to find Jesus to thank him. He fell at Jesus' feet and praised God. Jesus said, "We're not all 10 cleansed. Why is it that only one, a Samaritan, had returned?" And Jesus said, "Go, your faith has made you well." 10 lepers were cleansed of their leprosy, but only one was commended for his faith. He went away not only cleansed, but filled with living water, a relationship with Jesus.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson and that time of singing worship. And now it's time to get ready for our Sunday church service.